is exactly 1 p.m. from Morovia, the pleasant good afternoon, and welcome to King's News Broom. 45 minutes of news about Liberia and the rest of our one world. I'm Stephen Compton. First, the headlines. National Security Agencies dismisses senior official Peter Jala following allegations linking him and two others individuals to sodomizing a 15-year-old boy. NSA says the decision is intended to allow for an unhindered criminal investigation. Environmental Protection Agency calls for collective action to safeguard Liberia's environmental space amid alarming the climate change impact across the country. And also coming up in the news, the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency dismisses two officers following a comprehensive internal investigation into misconduct involving a female suspect. LDEA officer in charge, Fitzgerald Biako, reaffirms commitment to professionalism. Away from Liberia now, U.S. has suspended all assistance to the government of Somalia, alleging that officials destroyed the UN World Food Program warehouse and seized do not funded food aid. Details of these developments, the news bulletin, and the voices of the news makers are all packaged. We are taking a very short break to be right back. And now, welcome back. Up next is the bulletin of news with Janet Pessiman.
The National Security Agency has dismissed senior official Peter Jala following allegations that he and two other individuals gang sodomized a 15-year-old boy. The entity's decision follows investigative findings that link the former NSA official and two other unidentified men to the crime. Meanwhile, according to security sources, Jala dismissal has taken immediate effect and is intended to allow for an unhindered criminal investigation. The alleged act by the dismissal official has sparked public debate as many attributed what they term as the continual abuse of children under the UP administration to the culture of impunity. According to them, the failure of the government to prosecute former Deputy Minister Bryant McGill following allegations linking him to raping a 16-year-old minor has given rise to the situation. They further challenged the country's justice system to ensure the 15-year minor gets justice. The Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency has dismissed two of its officers following a comprehensive internal investigation into misconduct involving a female suspect in the agency's custody. The dismissal follows incident in which officers Solomon Bondu and Faith Willie were found to have physically assaulted a suspect, including slapping the individual while under detention. The actions confirmed through the officer in charge of the Liberian Drug Enforcement Agency, ACP Federal Baugo, noted that evidence found against the two officers are in violation of Section 45.8 of the LDEA Code of Conduct, which classifies such behavior as serious professional misconduct. According to the Professional Standards Division, the investigation adheres strictly to administrative due process. Both officers are afforded the opportunity to the allegations through written submissions and inquiry evaluated the totality of evidence gathered against the review process. He acknowledged public concern surrounding the incident and emphasized that the disciplinary action formed part of the broader recall and rebranding agenda aimed at restoring confidence in the agency's operation. ACB Biago added, unwashed, unprofessional behavior will not be tolerated under any circumstances which undermines human rights. the rule of law or the integrity of the institution. The LDEA reiterated its obligation under the Constitution of the Republic of Liberia to uphold human rights, particularly for individuals in custody, and to ensure that all enforcement actions are conducted lawfully and professionally. He also issued a warrant of personal administrative action will be taken against any officer whose conduct compromises the credibility, integrity, or reform efforts of the LDEA. Environmental Protection Agency says climate change is no longer a distant threat to Liberia, but a present and rapidly intensifying crisis already reshaping livelihoods, infrastructure, and national development. Addressing press conference Thursday at the EPA head office in Monrovia, EPA Executive Director Dr. Emmanuel Yakpawolo said the erratic rainfall to devastating floods, recent events, particularly throughout 2025 and into early 2026, have highlighted the urgent need for coordinated action by government, communities, and international partners. According to the EPA Executive Director, the impacts align with set scientific projections linking rising global temperatures to increase atmospheric meteors, stronger storms, and more frequent heavy rainfall against and across the country. He added that while the government has initiated measures to address climate risks, including strengthening environmental regulations, protecting forests and wetlands, and promoting climate resilient infrastructure, the scale of the challenge demands more robust action. Dr. Yakpaworo, however, noted that these responsibilities does not rest with government alone, but rather communities, religious institutions, civil society, organizations, and the private sector all have critical roles to play in protecting forests, reducing pollution, supporting sustainable agriculture. He called every Liberian to act decisively by protecting the forest, adding that climate change is already affecting daily life, including threatening of public health, food security, and the future of coming generations. The EPA executive director maintained that failure to act decisively will deepen inequality and economic vulnerability, especially with strong governance, international cooperation, urgent and collective. Protecting the environment today is essential to safeguarding livelihoods, supporting farmers, and securing sustainable future for Liberia tomorrow. The Ministry of Gender, Children, and Social Protection has threatened legal action against social media influencers accused of exploiting children for online content creation. In a statement issued on Thursday, the ministry expressed serious concern over the increased practice of some social media influencers using children as tools for generating online content, often involving the use of profane language. According to the ministries, such practices consist of gross violation of children's rights and dignity and run contrary to the norms and cultural values of Liberia's society. The ministry further noted that the use of children in exploitative and profane content undermines established children protection standards and exposes minors to long-term risks, including stigma, online abuse, and psychological trauma. It emphasized that media institutions and digital platforms should be used to promote responsible content creation that supports national efforts to protect children from online exploitation. The ministry at the same time urged parents, guardians, and caregivers to take responsibilities for safeguarding their children for being used in online content that compromises their safety and privacy and dignity. A former employee of Monster Garage, Walker Ama, has accused the company's management of engaging in what he described as poor labor practices, including unsafe working conditions and the unfair termination of his employment. Speaking with the reporter on Thursday, Ama alleged that Monster Garage routinely failed to provide basic safety and employment protection for his workers. Among the concerns he raised were the absence of safety boots for employees and lack of official identification cards, and what he described as persistent mistreatment of workers while on duty. Arma accused management of abandoning him after he sustained a severe injury while performing his duties. According to him, he broke his leg on the job but was left without medical and financial support from his employer. He said the lack of assistance results in prolonged suffering and has left one of his legs permanently crippled due to his inability to afford proper medical care. Arma further alleged that instead of receiving support during his recovery, his employment was terminated, an action he described as unjust and in violation of basic labor standards. Efforts to obtain a response from Monster Garage management regarding the allegations were unsuccessful. Labor advocates noted that Liberian labor laws require employers to ensure safe working environments and to provide reasonable support to workers injured in the course of its employment. The allegations have raised renewed concern about workplace safety and workers' rights within the informal and private sector, where enforcement of labor regulations is often weak. The managing director of the National Transit Authority, Elmore Ford, has described the institution under the CDC-led government as almost completely destroyed. According to him, the Barker-led administration inherited only 113,000 Liberian dollars and 41 USD in the NTA's accounts, with no substantial information regarding other accounts created under the authority. Ford explained that the institution was in a complete state of collapse and would have been totally destroyed had the CDC remained in power. As part of efforts to rebrand the institution, he stated that the NTA has introduced strategic salary harmonization, a move that increased staff strength and adjusts salaries in line with qualifications, ranks, adding that the current minimum salary at the NTA is 200 United States dollars. The institution, he said, has also embarked on strengthening the capacity of his employees and is currently sponsoring some staff to start the Monroeville Vocational Training Center, a step he noted will enhance efficiency and productivity. Ford further that the NTA is fast tracking the completion of its headquarters to ensure a more secure and conducive working environment. He also disclosed that the authority is working on modalities to restore functional terminal nationwide, procure new vehicles, and resume active services across the country. MD4 made the disclosure Thursday during the Ministry of Information regular press briefing in Monrovia. And former Minister of National Defense Brownie Samuka has disagreed with the argument of the countries currently being divided by political criticism. Appearance on the Truth Breakfast Show on Thursday, the former defense minister and winner of the Lofa County 2020 senatorial elections said the current political debate as a sign of healthy democratic. Samuka argued that diverse opinions doesn't mean the country is divided, maintaining that debate reflects the different shades of society that can be combined into a single range of development. The former defense minister further maintained that criticism is both expected and healthy, emphasizing the importance of techcraft, socialists, economists, and other specialists is shaping policy decisions. He noted that democracies depend on disagreement and criticism from opposition leaders, which, according to him, can shape in policy outcomes of a country. Samukai also further that the criticism on policy implementation from critics towards the president suggests that shortcomings is from appointed officials rather than the head of state.
Jen and Pessima there with the news bulletin is a regular feature on King's News Broom. 45 minutes of news about Liberia and the rest of our world. One of our top developments, National Security Agency dismisses senior official Peter Jala following allegation linking him and two others individuals to Sonomas and the 15-year-old boy. NSA says the decision is intended to allow and unhindered the criminal investigation. The details of this development, we are taking a very short break. When we come back, we'll bring you voices of the newsmakers. Welcome back. Let's now take our first development. The Environmental Protection Agency says climate change is no longer a distant threat to Liberia, but a present and rapid intensifying crisis already reshaping livelihood, infrastructure, and national development. Addressing a press conference Thursday at that's the EPA head office in Monrovia, EPA Executive Director Dr. Emmanuel Yakpaulo said the rainfall to devastating flood recent event, particularly throughout 2025 into the early part of 2026, have threatened the urgent need for coordinated action by government, community, and international partners.
I address you today on an issue that touches every Liberian. Our rainfall pattern, our farms, our roads, our homes. For generations, Liberian seasons follow a clear and dependable rhythm. The rainy season normally ranges from May, April to May, October, and the dry season from May, October to May, April. Farmers rely on this pattern to know when to plant and harvest. And engineers rely on it to plan construction and development works. However, in recent years, especially in 2025 and now early 2026, this pattern has changed. Instead of experiencing a clear dry season, Liberia has been recording persistent and unusual rainfall, often accompanied by strong winds and flooding. Floods and storms displaced thousands of people, destroyed homes and washed away properties, and made living conditions extremely difficult in Monrovia and its surrounding communities in other parts of Liberia. Even now, but what is causing this problem? Many Liberians are almost celebly asking why our weather and climate are changing and why these events are becoming even more dangerous. The simple and honest answer is climate change. Climate change is not a distant problem or a future threat. It is happening now, and Liberia is clearly experiencing its effects. For Liberia, this means heavier rainfall outside of traditional season, stronger storms, and more frequent flooding. Liberia has over 560 kilometers of coastline, and nearly 60% of our population lives along or near the coast. If this trend continues, thousands of Liberians could lose their homes and vital infrastructure such as roads, hospitals, coastlines will increasingly be in danger. The second major threat is the changing pattern and intensity of rainfall. Rain no longer comes when it is expected, and when it does, it often comes in large and destructive amount. This directly threatens agriculture, which depends almost entirely on natural rainfall.
The EPA executive director further maintained that failure to act decisively would deepen inequality and economic vulnerability, especially with strong governance and international cooperation.
While climate change is driven by global factors, local environmental practices are making its impact worse. Heavy reliance on charcoal production and fire use, the increasing number of old and fuel inefficient vehicles, industrial emission, deforestation, destruction of wetland, poor waste management, and pollution of rivers and streams by mining activities all weaken our natural defenses against flooding and extreme weather. These changes are already affecting national development. Road construction projects are delayed. Maintenance costs are increasing. Development plans based on all climate assumptions are no longer effective. Our farmers are among the highest hit. Unpredictable rainfall causes seeds to rot in waterlogged soil, crops to fail, and harvests to decline. This affects rice, cassava, vegetables, and tree crops, leading to higher food prices and greater food insecurity. Government intervention. The government of Liberia is actively responding to these challenges. Liberia continues to advocate strongly at the global level for climate justice, adaptation finance, and loss and damage support for vulnerable countries. The government is also advancing coastal defense projects to protect communities, roads, hospitals, and economic access for sea level rise and storm surges. At the same time, the Environmental Protection Agency is strengthening environmental governance by improving monitoring of mining activities, enforcing environmental laws, protecting forests and wetlands, regulating pollution, polluting industries, and promoting climate smart agriculture. Call to action to all Liberians and residents of Liberia. However, government action is not enough alone. Every Liberian and everyone who resides in Liberia has a role to play. I urge all citizens and residents of Liberia to protect forests and wetlands, stop unnecessary deforestation, keep our communities clean, avoid blocking villages and drainage systems, reduce pollution.
Environmental Protection Agency Executive Director Dr. Emmanuel Yapaulo there speaking. The Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency has dismissed two of its officers following a comprehensive internal investigation into misconduct involving a female suspect in the agency's custody. The dismissal follows an incident in which Officer Solomon Bodo and Faith Wade were found to have physically assaulted the suspect, including slapping of the individual while under custody. The action confirmed through the officer in charge of the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency noted that evidence found against the two officers are in violation of Section 45.8 of the LDEA Code of Conduct. According to him, the Professional Standard Division, the investigation adhered strictly to administrative due process.
It is in this background of reform and accountability that the administration of the LDA mandated the Board of Internal Inquiry professional standards to conduct a comprehensive administrative investigation into allegations I sought involving Officer Solomon Bondo and Faith Willie. The incident on review reported occurred on January 6, 2026 and involved a female suspect who was in the custody of the agency. Instead of adhering to establish administrative procedures and due process requirements, the professional standard ensured that both officers were afforded full procedural fairness throughout the investigation. This process included the voluntary submission of written statements responsive to structural personnel, a cross-examination conducted during the inquiry. During the course of the investigation, Officer Solomon Bondo and Faith Willie admitted to slapping the suspect. Both officers further acknowledged their actions constituted a violation of the LDA Code of Conduct. They expressed remorse and tender apologies are reflected in the complaint deposition, section 5.9, page 37, under section 45.8 of the LDA Code of Conduct. Such actions are classified as serious unprofessional conduct. Under the LDA Administrative Due Process Framework, investigative findings are categorized as unfounded, exonerated, not sustained, or unsustained. Based on the officer's admissions and the totality of the evidence gathered, the Board of Internal Inquiry and Professional Standards determined that the allegation against both officers is sustained. In accordance with section 45.8 of the LDA Code of Conduct on serious unprofessional conduct. In view of the findings, the Board of Internal Inquiry and Professional Standards are recommended the following: that the findings of sustained be formally applied in this matter pursuant with the relevant provision of the LDA Code of Conduct. That Officer Solomon Bondo and Phil Willie be terminated from the Drug Enforcement Agency for serious professional misconduct. That the agency reaffirm its uncompromising position that there is no room for unprofessional behavior within the LDA, that no one is above the law, and that accountability will be enforced without exception. That in pursuit of its ongoing reform and rebranding efforts, the LDA remains firm in enforcing discipline, ethical conduct, and absolute professionalism across the institution. The Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency assure the public that the rights, safety, and dignity of all citizens, particularly those in the custody of the agency, remain paramount.
Former Minister of Defense Brennan Samukar has expressed his disagreement with the argument of the country currently being divided by political criticism. Samukar argued that diverse opinions does not mean the country is divided, maintaining that debate reflects the different shapes of society and that can be combined into a single range of development.
No, I think diverse opinion doesn't necessarily mean the country is divided. As a matter of fact, it provides a better focus on the different shades that we can combine looking through the single spectrum that we call development. Different shades to it. So I think the debate is healthy. Every legislature has its own ethics. Every ethos, that's what they have. Different way of different attitude. You see legislature in Thailand fighting. You see legislature in Singapore fighting to express the idea. In Korea fighting. Here we are debating the issue. So there's a diversity of opinion. We show the diversity of our culture and our environment. So I think it's very helpful. What I can say is that the president espoused his power. He gave us a direction that he's leading that he wanted to follow. It is incumbent upon us appointed to those positions to deliver for the president based on the strategy that have been approved, the resources that are available that we can account for, and the results that we have said we're going to achieve. That's where the issue comes out. How long it took us to achieve. For example, a criticism of certain kind of implementation does not mean you're criticizing the president. It simply means that those given the task to implement certain things are probably not doing it in the context of which it is expected. Diverse opinion sometimes is very healthy for democracy, so that you alone don't have all of the ideas. That is why you have sociologists, you have economists, you have mathematicians, and different kind of technocrats in whose diverse opinion you can take in the final decision that you make.
The managing director of the National Transit Authority, Edmund Fall, has described the institution under the CDC-led government has almost completed this role. According to him, the Boyka-led administration inherited only LD 113,000 and USD 41 data in the NTH's accounts with no substantial information regarding other accounts created on the authority. Fall explained that the institution was in a complete state of collapse and who have been totally destroyed had the CDC remained in power.
When we took over the National Transit Authority, we took an inventory of how we met the institution, and to authenticate what we recorded, we wrote the General Auditing Commission to conduct an entry audit so that at the end of our tenure, when we are leaving, there will be an independent verifier to state what we actually met there. In terms of employee welfare, when we took over, we met the institution very broke. In fact, in one of our discussions, I said the total amount in dollars and cents that we met at the entity was 113,000 Liberian dollars and 41 US dollars. In fact, a draft copy of the GAC report even put me a little bit wrong because there were accounts that were open that we did not receive information about, and we got those information as a result of the audit, and almost all the accounts are in negative, which means a liability to the institution. So if I take that into consideration, it means we met the entity deep in negative. However, there were some people that tend to challenge what we said, and I told them I would need ask the bank to publish it directly from the bank, and you will see exactly what we are talking about. In terms of infrastructure, said it my last time here that we took over the entity without an administrative building. The administrative building was burned down to the ground, and so in 2025 we began the construction of a new administrative building. As we speak, they should be casting the first floor of that building this morning. We are now trying to renovate our terminus. Four terminals were constructed in 2014. In fact, the fourth one was not completed up to 2017. Three of them was fully completed, furnished well in Bangabon County, Owatasaka, and Cape County, and Buchanan, and Basso County. Unfortunately, those terminals were massively looted during the past 6 years.
He's the managing director of the National Transit Authority at Montfort. They're speaking. And now we have an hour past the news presentation. This is a reminder you are listening to the Friday edition of King's News Broom. 45 minutes of news about Liberia. And that's we're taking a very short break. When we come back, we'll bring you more developments. Welcome back. Up to this next development, a former employee of the Monster Garage, Boyka Aman, has accused the company's management of engaging in what he described as poor labor practices, including unsafe working conditions and the unfair termination of his employment. Speaking with reporters Thursday, Aman alleged that Monster Garage routinely failed to provide basic safety and employment protection for its workers. He also accused the management of abandoning him after he sustained a severe injury while performing his duty.
I started work at Monster Garage in March 2020. I worked there for 2 years, 3 months. On the 11th of June 2022, I went to work. I was a mechanic at the garage. I worked there on the 11th of June, which was on Tuesday. I went to work. Because this garage, we worked there from 8 to 6. This is garage, we don't have any article, don't have no dressing room, even safety gear. We don't have it. So I went in the bathroom to use the bathroom. While coming back on motorbike, I hit me my foot got broken. You can see while I'm consuming, I'm not able to give it there or down from the company for salary. I spent 4 more hours with the to add it to salary. To add even helping for me to get money to even keep them up. Here's why I'm here. I'm not able to continue to 2 million. I'm going to go back to the garage in 18. I started work on the 1st of October 2020. In June 2025, we had a misunderstanding between us and him because the garage there is no battery charger there. So he told me to charge the battery, to be charging the battery on the car. While charging the battery, mistakenly, my head was another doing another work. He finished on the car. He came out every yelling to me, what you have to finish on the car, you know, telling me, oh, my head was never knew. So he told me, say, he started, he had to buy fuel. I told him, say, I don't have money. But then, say, you don't have money, then my car city also, to me, I will fire it. I have money home. My electronic for me. So if they any my car city also, I said, but I don't have money. He said, okay, tomorrow you can't take your salary. The next morning when I went there, he said, go in the office. I went in the office and there was even signing like usually 27 now from 2025. I went in the office, he told the accountant to give me my 1 month salary, which is 150. I already finished taking $50 salary account. So he gave me $100. And I walked away. They have it. They sent down there for my kids. But then what to do? I'm in the ball now with the minister. The minister on the kids. But the case the way proceeding with them accusing me of speeding and we oppose. I'm not a criminal. You pay me my 1 month salary, clear. I will clear with him, you will clear with me, I walk out. The case where I tell you to manager of labor is my benefit from the garage. I got hurt on the job without me taking salary and wrongly pull me down.
And now, on the way from home, the U.S. has suspended all assistance through the government of Somalia, alleging that officials destroy UN full program warehouse and seize do not fund full aid. The Trump administration has a zero tolerance policy for waste, theft, and diversion of life saving assistance, said U.S. State Department. The message they posted on the account of the London Secretariat for Foreign Assistance said report had been received about official illegally seizing 76 tons of food intended for vulnerable citizens of that country. Somalia has denied the allegation, saying that the expansion work underway in Mogadishu port, where the warehouse is located, had not affected NNA storage. It stressed that all humanitarian aid in question was still under the custody and control of the World Food Program, including assistance provided by the United States. A WFP staff member in Mogadishu speaking on the situation confirmed to the AFP news agency that the full aid had not been stolen. The warehouse was rapidly demolished during the weekend without the knowledge of the WFP team, but there was no looting involved. This is how we go on today's edition of the news program. But before we take leave of you, reminder of top stories, we close the photo. National Security Agency dismisses senior official Peter Jalad following allegations linking him and two other individuals to sodomizing a 15-year-old boy. NSA says the decision is intended to allow for an unhindered criminal investigation. Environmental Protection Agency calls for collective action to safeguard Liberia's environmental space amid alarming climate change impact across the country. The Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency dismissed two officers following a comprehensive internal investigation into misconduct involving a female suspect. LDEA officer in charge, Fitzgerald Biako, reaffirms commitment to professionalism. Away from home, U.S. has suspended all assistance to the government of Somalia, alleging that officials destroyed a UN World Food Program warehouse and seized donor-funded food aid. On this note, I'd like to say many thanks to our news writers and editors, as well as reporters for making today's news presentation or sources. Janet Pessiman was here with the news bulletin, and Sam Andrew Sarah Control ably coordinated itself. I'm Stephen Compton. Thanks for listening and watching.